Hey, hey, what's happening out there, everybody in YouTube land? It's Saturday. You know what that means. Time for another awesome episode of ABW Detonate right here on YouTube. I am the old school AB, being joined once again by the Bard of the Boiler Room, the Deacon of Distressity, the Pontiff of Pain himself, one and only Kind Man. How are you doing today, buddy?
I am having a fabulous day and looking forward to the show.
Excellent. Well, speaking of looking forward to the show, I mean, I like to do some preamble, but I mean, I don't have anything to preamble about today, so I think we should just get right into it. And today's episode is going to be a little special. If you've seen the thumbnail, you know it's Sting, as Tony Schiavone would often declare, both back in the 90s and today. But today we're going to take a little bit of time and pay a little bit of a tribute to Sting. It's his last match on Sunday night, and boy, I don't know how to feel about it, because on one end, I'm happy that he's going out on his own terms, and I'm happy that he did not succumb to the ills, rigors, and pressures of pro wrestling. And has been an absolutely gem of a human being throughout everything. So, you know, and I'm a big Sting fan. I'm one of the biggest Sting fans. I mean, look, I'm dressed like Sting today, for God's sakes. So, you know, gosh, what can I say about the Stinger? Steve Borden, who was born March 20th, 1959. That makes him 64 years old today. Well, not today, but soon. He'll be 65 soon. He was born right here in Omaha, Nebraska, better known by his ring name Sting. He has captured 26 total championships throughout his career, including 12 world championships for 3 separate companies. A total of 22 titles altogether for the NWA, WCW, and TNA. And readers of Pro Wrestling Illustrated named him Most Popular Wrestler of the Year on 4 occasions, a record he shares with only John Cena. Imagine that, if you will.
Holy hell.
Imagine that, if you will, Mr. Kind Man. A wrestler so popular, he does not have Vince McMahon's machine behind him, and he still manages to get Most Popular Wrestler of the Year 4 years. I think it was 91, 92, 94, and 97.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like the most astonishing part of all of that is that he shares that record with John Cena, which just
That's right.
made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. But
yeah, no, it's kind of crazy.
Most popular, I get it.
Yeah,
definitely most popular. You know, you said good human being. Cena's done more Make-A-Wish than anyone in the world, so good human being absolutely. As well. So I don't want to disparage him either.
No, but quite a feat for the Stinger. He got his start in 1985 as part of Power Team USA. He came along with several others, including Jim Hellwig, who would eventually become the Ultimate Warrior. That's who he was tag team partners with in the very beginning. And they were called Power Team USA. They were just muscle-headed dudes from the gym who showed up. In fact, that's where they were discovered. They were working out in a gym, and all of them were bigger than the wrestlers. They said, you got to come into this industry, you know. So that's kind of what happened there. That didn't last long, and he did a stint in CWA, I think, for a little while with Jerry Jarrett. And they changed their names. He and Jim Hellwig did to Flash and Rock, and they were the Blade Runners. And they were a Road Warrior ripoff tag team, which, you know, that's funny in and of itself. But, you know, that's where they got the face paint idea from, both Warrior and Sting. They just never took it off, you know. Nice little factoid there. Eventually, they'd make their way to the UWF in 1987. And once that was bought, I think they went to the UWF in 86, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think they went to the UWF in 86, and Hellwig split really, really quick. Like, he went down to Texas. He went down to World Class Championship Wrestling and became the Dingo Warrior. And once that happened, Flash changed his name to Sting and started tagging with the likes of Rick Steiner and Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. And it was entertaining. I mean, look, the guy had a natural charisma. He was a heel wrestler at the time, but he had such a natural charisma, the fans just started to cheer him. And eventually UWF was bought in 87 by Jim Crockett Promotions. And excuse me, folks, my history, my brain, I get racked in the head a lot as a kid, so my brain is not the greatest as far as remembering things, so don't come after me if I don't get the dates and times and everything right. But yeah, 87, I believe, is when...
And as someone that has had 5 concussions in his life, I support you.
I've had 5 concussions in my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
My brain has been rattled plenty.
Yeah, well, mine too. It's not fun. Not fun. But anyways, UWF was bought by JCP, where Sting quickly became a fan favorite. He went on to challenge Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship on the first ever Clash of Champions, where they battled to a 45-minute draw in one of the most exciting matches I ever saw as a kid, up to that point. Of course, the first Clash of Champions was famous, or infamous, if you will, for going up against WrestleMania 4 on free television, which did not make Vince McMahon very happy. And as a result, you know, Jim Crockett drew huge numbers on TBS, and it really, really catapulted Sting to where he needed to be. And I always think in my mind of minds that, you know, that's why even when Sting went to WWE later on, that Vince was never going to push him, you know, because he basically made his name off of WrestleMania 4. You know, fans not wanting to pay whatever the pay-per-view price was, and well, I can watch this on free TV. So there you go. Maybe that's a little bit of insight for you guys out there. Free insight you won't find anywhere else, folks. Only ABW.
No,
But
no wrestling podcast is giving a walk down memory lane of Sting today.
I guarantee it. And I'm not going to be as thorough as some would, you know, if they were to do it. But I wanted to be succinct as well. So I'm going to leave a lot out. But his matches with the likes of Flair, the Great Muta, Cactus Jack, and Big Van Vader, they ruled the early 90s in WCW when there was a constant threat to anyone that held gold, and Sting was the name. But he was also part of some infamous blunders and missteps. The Shockmaster comes to mind. He was Davey Boy Smith's tag team partner, and they were going to unveil their brand new tag team partner. It was going to shock the world. He was none other than the Shockmaster, and it was Tugboat, a.k.a. Fred Ottoman, under a sparkly Stormtrooper helmet. He tripped on a 2x4 out through this false wall. It's one of the funniest damn things you'll ever see. I'm sure it's been played to death on the internet, but I still get a kick out of it every time. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm laughing. So, yeah, poor Fred. He got the raw end of the stick on that, literally. And I'm also thinking about RoboCop. People often forget this one. Sting was going up against the Four Horsemen. And the Four Horsemen at the time, I think it was Flair, Arn and Ole, and Sid Vicious. I think Vicious was part of the gang at that point. And Sting needed backup. So who did Sting call for backup? He called RoboCop. Why? Because RoboCop was a popular movie at the time. Now, did they actually get Frank Weller to come out there in a costume? No, it was some guy just in a RoboCop costume that slowly lumbered to the cage where they had trapped Sting in a steel cage, and RoboCop slowly lumbered to the front of this cage while the Four Horsemen are backing up because, oh my God, it's RoboCop. And RoboCop pulls the steel bars of the cage open just like this so Sting can get out. Now, you know, of course they were fake bars. They were gimmicked, as it were.
No, they were real. RoboCop is serious.
Shit. But anyways, a couple of blunders along the way, but you know, I mean, who doesn't have, you know, some bad angles? I'm also reminded of the Black Scorpion, which I could go on. I could dedicate an entire show to that because as a kid, I was fascinated by the Black Scorpion. It was a nemesis to Sting who threatened him with weird messages about, remember California in '86, and all these things. Sting. He was like a laughing, villain. He was a cape and cowl wearing villain under a hood, a mask, and the whole nine. And the guy who was supposed to be under the mask was Al Perez, and for whatever reason he backed out or didn't show or whatever, and it wound up being Ric Flair was the Black Scorpion, the real quote unquote real Black Scorpion. But they had other guys under the hood that would come out and do magic tricks, like the Black Scorpion would take a fan from the crowd and put him in a steel cage. And what's with Sting in these fucking steel cages, right? But he would put Sting in the steel cage, and he would put a cloak over the steel cage, and he would pull the cloak back, and there would be a tiger in the cage. He would change a fan into a tiger. See, Sting, I've got you now. Ha 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 ha. And Sting had to stand in the ring and go, well, come on to the ring. Come on if you're going to do it. It was fucking great. It was so corny and so cheesy. It was great. And of course, the payoff was they unmasked Ric Flair in the ring as the Black Scorpion after Sting defeated him. And then a month later, Ric Flair won the world title from Sting. So go figure why that happened. Anyways.
Two of those.
Yeah, anyways. And I'm leaving out a bunch of great stuff like his matches with Muta and Cactus Jack, which were absolutely brutal, as you could well imagine. And Vader was absolutely brutal as well. So the guy was tough, no doubt about it. And thankfully, there's more good things to talk about Sting. Although I'm not really sure it mattered because he was always over. There's never been a point where the guy has never been over. And that's really saying something all through the mid-90s. And up to the mid-90s, Sting saw a transformation of a way, in a way, due to the formation of the NWO. He was basically... He wasn't betrayed by WCW, but they questioned his loyalty, right? Are you going to join the NWO or are you not going to join the NWO? And so eventually it came down to, Sting basically declaring himself a free agent. If the NWO wanted him, they could take him. Or if WCW proved to be strong enough to hold itself together, just maybe there's a chance that Sting could be the hero. And he started hanging out in the rafters and wearing black and white face paint. And that's where it comes from even today. He basically changed himself into like this Brandon Lee Crow Batman-esque vigilante who took matters into his own hands. And
that's how I remember him, because
right.
I'm not the Sting historian you are. I picked him up late in WCW when
right.
the whole, WWE, WCW thing was happening.
Right.
And what I think of two things. I think of baseball bat and I think of rafters.
Yeah.
Those are the two things I think of when I think of Sting.
Yeah, yeah. And it was exciting because he would come down from the rafters on a steel cable on a drop lift or something. I don't know what they call those things. I think I know what they call them, but it escapes my mind at this point. But he would come out and he would do that whole gimmick, and it was just fabulous. Because it was a shocking and exciting thing to see, even live. Oh my God, it was amazing to see live because you're not paying attention to the top of the rafters. All you're paying attention to is what's in the ring. And just out of your view, here it comes. And it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to watch in the ring. It gives you chills. It's just the most amazing thing. I'll never forget it. What a fantastic way to cap a brilliant night off when I saw Sting. Man, was that awesome. His title match against Hulk Hogan for the world title at Starrcade was mired in controversy and sort of overbooked. But I don't think us Sting fans care. It was Nick Patrick's fault. He was supposed to do a fast 3 count. And for whatever reason, he counted a normal cadence. And I'm not really sure why to this day. And he'll even tell you, I don't know why I did it. It's just a thing. Frankly, I think Hogan told him to do it. I think Hogan sabotaged the match, but that's just me. I don't like Hogan much.
Hogan's the worst.
Yeah.
By the way, I can't. Like, I just. That's why I love The Undertaker so much.
Right, because
when he was the first one to like make the real American like just look like weak.
Right.
And it just so resonated with me because I never liked the good guys.
Right.
except for a few. But except for a few that were just amazing personalities and amazing, but yeah. So Hogan has never resonated with me ever.
No. Hulkster, you can go to hell. I think that's Tony Schiavone put it best. The formation of the NWO. He said it. Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell. Straight to hell.
When Paul Bearer held up the urn during that match in Survivor Series and go, "Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan." Like that was one of the greatest things I've ever heard in wrestling.
Yeah.
Talk about a gimmick. Oh God, Paul Bearer was amazing.
He was great. Well, let's get back to Sting. I feel like we're digressing a little bit here. Yeah. In 2001, WCW would be sold to WWE, which, as a lifelong, Crockett fan and WCW fan, that hurt. And I'll be blunt. I'll be totally honest. It still hurts. I miss WCW. That was my jam. WCW was my favorite, even though they made a terrible, terrible amount of mistakes towards the end. I don't think they had, half the resources that they should have had going into that company. Time Warner AOL basically decided that wrestling wasn't going to be in their portfolio, as Hulk Hogan would say, as that piece of shit Hulk Hogan would say. So Sting, rather than having his contract bought out and being going to work for Vince, just decided to sit it out. And and more power to him for sitting it out. Sure. He didn't want to have to put his body through any harm, and he still got paid. Works for me. I'm sure it worked for him. But nevertheless, he would stay out of wrestling for a good while. He would make sporadic appearances on indies and things like that, but he wouldn't really go out of his way until, I think, 2004. 2003 or 2004, when he started making sporadic appearances for, at the time, I think it was called NWA Total Nonstop Action, but we'll just start calling it all TNA, which he had a series of matches with Jeff Jarrett, and he had some matches with Steiner and Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, of all people. Just some fantastic matches that I think people missed because TNA wasn't as visible or didn't have as much visibility as, say, WCW had at the time, even though it was the number 2 quote-unquote promotion in America. I think the thing that most people will remember about Sting's run in TNA, and this is sad, is the match he had with Jeff Jarrett. Not Jeff Jarrett, I'm sorry. I tell a lie. Jeff Hardy, where Jeff Hardy showed up in the ring, in the arena, and basically he was in no condition to perform. He was blitzed out of his mind. And he got as far as going to the ring. And once he got to the ring, Sting made his entrance, and of course Eric Bischoff came down and whispered something in Sting's ear, and basically that thing was, "We're going home right now, just pin him." And he told, Hardy to do the favor right away. So that's exactly what happened, and the fans were pissed. They were chanting, "Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit." And Sting is walking up the ramp with the championship title going, I agree. What a hard break, Out of all the ones, that I've seen him go through, that was probably the toughest, because it was a real life situation that,
But not his fault.
No, it's not his fault, but still, especially considering how much Jeff Hardy looked up to Sting. I mean, that was one of his favorite wrestlers as a kid. So, but anyways, we won't concern ourselves with too much more of that. Fast forward to 2014, where his contract in TNA would end, and he would join WWE finally for a cup of coffee that saw him wrestle 2 matches, one against Triple H at WrestleMania, which I think I heard some podcaster a long time ago call it Wrestling 9/11, which I as well agree with that. That was a fucking clusterfuck of bullshit. If you're a Sting fan, you understand why. And then his match at Night of Champions up against Seth Rollins for the World Championship, where he got injured. And that was sad to see too. Um, I really, really felt bad. He finished the match like a fucking champ because that's what he is. But I mean, Sting is built different. A spinal stenosis is not fun to think about, and eventually, it just comes to a point where you have to think about what's best for yourself and what's best for your health, and that's what he did.
But some of these guys that you're referring to and that you've mentioned throughout this, tribute, some of them don't think that way. Like they finish the match, like Sting.
Yeah.
Like you brought up Cactus Jack. I mean,
yeah,
there's a famous match where he was very, very injured.
Squashed like a
And
bug.
not only did he see it out, he enhanced it.
Yeah.
And these legends like you're talking about do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of times they pay the ultimate price later on in life, but that's what makes them legends.
That's right. And Sting is absolutely no different. Because eventually he would, and I don't know if I really need to retell this tale. If you've been watching AEW wrestling for the last 3 years, you'll know that he's been a tag team partner of Darby Allin in AEW, and they've had a fantastic run together, culminating with Sting and Darby Allin winning the World Tag Team Championships most recently. What can I say about Sting's AEW run? I'm sorry. He's doing things that any 64-year-old man should never attempt. He's diving off of balconies. He's jumping off of lifts, and he's doing scorpion death drops off of the backs through tables. I mean, the dude, Sting is just built different, man. He's just built different. I don't know how he survives the things that he's doing, but he is not being overshadowed by Darby Allin at all. If you take into consideration what he is and what he's been to the sport for as long as he has, boy, he's not holding anything back. And this Sunday, he proves to once again, or he's telling us once again, he's not going to hold anything back. And I personally can't wait. I think Sting's last match is going to be just as fabulous as anything we've seen him do here in the last 3 years, which is nothing short of phenomenal. And if I want to say anything, it would probably be this. Thank you, Sting. You gave me and so many other wrestling fans around the world so many great memories. Even the bad angles were great, I promise. Thank you for the years of sacrifice, both personally and professionally, and most important of all, thank you for being a good human being. It's good to see a guy that doesn't let the industry destroy him, and I wish you nothing but the best in retirement. So thank you once again, buddy. Fair winds and following seas, my friend. One fellow Omahan to another.
Yeah, I'm not from Nebraska, and I didn't grow up watching Sting, but I very much appreciate his longevity. Like some of the dates you just gave.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even a teenager yet, and I just turned 50. So, right. So when you put that in perspective, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And your point is awesome to say you have a 60-something going through tables, doing these things, committed to his craft, and still doing it at a way that doesn't look out of place.
No.
Like that's where, because a lot of times you do have these, and the Undertaker did this. The Undertaker did not at 64 or whatever, but at a very old age, didn't look out of place.
Yeah.
And that's few and far between. And that's a Mount Rushmore thing, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
Where they can do this, and by the way, that'd be a great show, Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
We'll put that on the tap.
Yeah, but just kudos. And by the way, I haven't, as a primarily WWE guy, luckily with Peacock and everything, I haven't had to pay $50 for a show in a while, but I will pay $50 on Sunday and watch that just out of respect.
Yeah. Yeah. I figured he earned it,
Yeah.
So, and I like watching AEW pay-per-views anyway. AEW pay-per-views are really good. You may actually enjoy yourself watching. They're fantastic most of the time.
I know I'll enjoy myself.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of shelling out at this point. And by the
Yeah.
way, wouldn't have had any problem shelling out 2 years ago.
No.
But now that there's been a different you know, money system, the WWE.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know how the WWE is done with it. Like I don't know. Like
I don't
they've
know.
lost money from me annually.
I
There's no
think
doubt
they're
about that.
I
Like
think they get their money from Peacock. Like they sell, XYZ content to Peacock, and then Peacock buys it for a high price.
right.
And I think
But I pay $72 a year for Peacock.
Sure. Well, I do too.
And if I just did, I mean,
Right.
I think the last time I bought the WrestleMania on pay-per-view, it was 65.
Yeah, it was expensive.
Like
It was
it had
more
gotten
expensive.
up,
Yeah.
especially
It's
when
like
they moved it
70
to 2
bucks.
days.
Yeah. God, could you
Yeah, so
imagine paying $70 for 2 days? No.
I mean,
Hell no.
it's no, but I paid $50 every year, and you could have charged me 100 for the Royal Rumble because
Ah,
that's my event. That's the
that's
one
your jam.
that's just appointment viewing. Like I don't miss it. Um,
Oh. But anyways, thank you once again to Sting. I hope that I did you tribute. I hope that I did your tribute justice. I tried to be as succinct as possible, but I ate up a lot of time. I'm sorry.
no, I thought that was fabulous. And by the way,
Um,
it took me to a place where I learned a lot and of someone that deserves that stage and someone that deserves that tribute and someone that didn't watch it from day one. I appreciated what you just did.
you're welcome, buddy. I do it
Yeah.
for you, and I do it for all of you out there. That's who I do it for. Hopefully, you guys all enjoyed it. I want to talk really quick about next week's show. Hopefully next week. I don't know. Maybe it'll be next week. Maybe it'll be the week after. I don't know exactly. But I want to do another old school pay-per-view review. And I've labored over it a long time, and because it's WrestleMania season, I want to do another WrestleMania. I want to do perhaps what many people call the best WrestleMania of all time. We are going to review WrestleMania X7. That's WrestleMania 17 for those of you who they call it officially X7, but yeah. But WrestleMania X7, and it's a great show, and just off the cuff, real quick, I'm not going to, or we are not going to review one match on the card, sadly, because I don't want to bring attention to it any more than it has to, and because I don't want to glorify a murderer. So, and I think Biff probably knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
okay, and I'm not going to even mention his name.
I'm just thinking timeline and everything like
right.
that. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, his match with Kurt Angle will not be reviewed, but every other match is going to be up for grabs, including my personal favorite, the Gimmick Battle Royal. What a fun thing where Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan came out and did commentary. Remember that? Fucking great. All right. Let's get on to our next big thing, if you will, our Brock Lesnar. And let's do the Kind Man Top 5. And today, I'll just let you take it because you have a microphone. And I think that's appropriate for what you're going to say today.
Yeah, so we're going to do a top 5 list of best microphone wrestlers of all time. So
right.
I'm not including managers, although managers play a part in this.
Right.
Because there are some great managers on the mic that manage these people that made it kind of a twofer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there, when you think about this, and especially today, because we're seeing like a lot of great microphone wrestlers, and we're seeing them evolve from a lot of the people on this list.
Right.
Like you look at LA Knight, he's basically a mix
Right.
between Stone Cold Steve Austin and other great microphone wrestlers. Like you
The
just see
Rock.
all these.
I actually
The
think
Rock, yeah, you
he's
see all
closer
this, but
to Steve Austin and The Rock, a mixture of the two, but
it absolutely is, where they're involving the crowd, where the crowd finishes their sentences,
yeah.
and is in. And how I looked at this list, because it's really hard, right? This is probably the toughest one I've done.
Oh yeah.
And how I looked at it, it was who, when they grabbed the microphone and you were ready to go upstairs to go to the bathroom, who was must-see TV? Who stopped you in your tracks when you saw them grab a microphone? And that's kind of how I did this. And this was the hardest one. It was the hardest one at the bottom of the top 5. It
Right.
was not the hardest one at the top. Because what I had to really figure out is who just made the list. you know, um, at the bottom of it. And I'll start there, with Chris Jericho. And I'm gonna go a number 5, because I really had 6 that I really didn't feel like I could leave anyone out of.
Right.
You think of Chris Jericho, you think of longevity, you think of he was the first one to name a show after himself, like Raw is Jericho.
He used to call it Monday Night Jericho as well for Nitro.
Correct. And how often has that been duplicated
Right.
by people like Seth Rollins? And you know what I mean?
Oh, I
Like
do.
that's he created that, like the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, just never, ever, like all the catchphrases that Chris Jericho did, and also the longevity
Yeah.
of that. And by the way, there are a lot of tiebreakers in this list that are based on longevity.
Yeah.
And there are people that might even be better than the people I rank higher, but how long did you do it? And Jericho, 100%, deserves to be on this list. And I put him as a number 5. He could be higher, but this is all subjective, right?
It is. Yeah.
And I'll give it his number 5, which I think the way I describe him the best is he has absolutely hilarious eloquence, but yet a combination of mean and maliciousness. And that's Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
This is a guy that could captivate while being brutal.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you like coconuts? I'll give you coconuts. Like everything from that Schnucka, Piper's Pit, to just when you think you know the answer, I change the question. Like he was just one of those guys that was so mean, but so eloquent, people loved him.
Do you remember what he did to Mr. T? Where he had all those pictures. This is what's going to happen to you, Mr. T. You're going to wind up in the hospital with a broken leg. So good. So good.
No, so I'm like a, I don't know what year it was, but I'm at the Hartford Civic Center at a road show, whatever. And my dad took me, and maybe I was 10. I don't know, like maybe like early 80s. And we went up to the little pop-up, like t-shirt and like the little stand.
Yeah.
And my dad goes, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want the Rowdy Roddy Piper t-shirt. The white one with the red trim and
with the ringer shirt."
That was like, and I'm this little 8-year-old, and I'm gravitating towards the guy that's slamming coconuts over the good guy's head. And so that's captivating, and he's just amazing. So those two, I think, very well could be higher than tied for fifth. But I think they both deserve to be in this conversation.
I wouldn't disagree at all.
So number four, and this is going to tie into a recent death of, another WWE superstar well before their time. Probably one of the greatest wrestling personas of all time. Most certainly the greatest laugh in wrestling history, and that's Ted DiBiase.
Ah, another fellow Omahan.
Yeah, no, and he's just one of those characters. It was just so perfect and so maybe the opposite of a name coming up.
Right.
Just being this elitist bad guy, but just you could not be more captivated by every word that came out of his mouth. Including, as I said, the laugh.
Right.
Like just one of those guys, like, I am the guy, and you guys are all under me.
Yeah.
Just the persona was so perfect. And I guess he's a religious speaker, I guess, in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. He found Jesus.
Yeah. But they say that a lot of him speaking in front of crowds in churches is a lot driven from his WWE experience.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm not a big religious guy, but hey, to each their own.
Right.
And I love the fuck out of Ted DiBiase, like as a character, as a persona, as someone that could talk on the mic and make you love him and hate him at the exact same fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, it was perfect.
First time I ever saw Ted DiBiase was in Bill Watts' UWF, and he had a gimmick where, he was just Ted DiBiase, but he had this loaded glove that he would wear, he would hide, and he would put on, and he would punch people with it, and that loaded glove would knock people out, and that was his whole shtick. I have an injury; it's a legitimate thing. It's kind of like he kind of did the Cowboy Bob Orton routine, where he had a cast on for years and years. Yeah, yeah. I always thought that was funny, but yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I just
no. I need your color on this. So Ted DiBiase is number four.
Nice.
Rest in peace, Virgil.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Big part of his gimmick, and just passed away this last week. So number three, I think this guy is the opposite of Ted DiBiase. In every way, shape, and form. This guy is passionate. He's real. He's relatable. And that's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He was every man. He was 200 plus pounds, twist steel and sex appeal. Like he just, you know what I mean? He flew off the screen. He flew off the screen at you and put everyone related to him. The exact opposite of DiBiase.
Right.
DiBiase was, I'm better than you. Right. And that's that. And throwing dollars around and $1 million belts, and diamond encrusted belts, right, and all of this. And this guy was, for the plumber,
he was the common man at the time.
Yeah. But just as more so captivating on the mic.
Yeah.
The Southern drawl, the cadence, like he was so good at the cadence of what he was saying about how everything just brought together. He was a maestro. And Dusty Rhodes is just, think about what he's done for a lot of the young wrestlers today.
Oh, definitely.
And all of that, and
all of Dusty's kids. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just, and you think about it. You think about Cody, and you think about Dustin, and you
Yeah.
like growing up in these legend shadows is so hard, and preparing them for that. I mean, we see it right now in LeBron James' son trying to make the NBA and everything. Like that's like difficult, like to follow
Definitely.
in those footsteps. And Cody's done an amazing job at that. Dustin's been, we talk about longevity.
Yeah.
He's figured it out.
Yeah.
He's hung with us for this long and been relevant. But their father, is top three
Yeah.
microphone wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
And there's
And
no, and by the way, I don't even think that's arguable.
right, you won't find too much of it. So far, your list is really top notch. I mean, I can't complain about. I might play with the order a little bit, but I really can't
Sure.
complain too much, right? You just reminded me of a Dusty promo. God, I can't remember when the last time I saw it was, but I saw it when I was a kid, and he actually gave himself two different weights in the interview. It's like he gained 14 pounds during an interview. He's like, I never thought I'd see 265 pounds of blue-eyed soul captivate a crowd like I have. And then he would go on and he would say, I'm telling you what, I am 275 pounds. And it was just freaking great. I was like, you didn't even remember what you said 10 minutes ago. Give me a
Right.
break. 10 seconds ago. But it was great. I mean, God, Dusty, what a great talker.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Yeah.
So good. I
Hilarious.
in high school, he was a big Dusty Rhodes fan. And we used to walk down the hall in high school, and whenever we passed each other, he would go like this and just drop an atomic elbow on my forehead. And yeah, that was the start of our wrestling fan club that I am in my yearbook. I am sitting there with a foam tombstone in that picture.
Nice.
After we went to the Hartford Civic Center for a field trip for a road show
Oh,
for our high
very
school wrestling
nice.
fan club. But
You get to buy wrestling paraphernalia on a school trip.
oh yeah, absolutely. And then our history teacher was the one that took us on a bus
Right.
to this wrestling road show as a school event. It
Nice.
was,
You've had cool
but anyway,
teachers.
so Dusty
Right.
Rhodes, no arguments.
No.
Like if you don't have Dusty Rhodes in your top five, regardless of ranking, you've lost. You know.
Duly noted, sir.
Number two is really interesting because I had some stuff to attend to last night. It was mainly a steak dinner with lobster mac and
Oh my
cheese
God.
and ancho chili butter on my ribeye.
My God.
So I missed SmackDown last night, and I actually didn't think I was going to be able to watch it before airing this episode, but I did. I found a way. And number two almost jumped up to number one because of how good he was last night. And that's The Rock.
Yep.
I mean, like what he did last night to me encompasses how good a microphone wrestler The Rock is. I mean, good or bad, like no matter what side he's on,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Did you see that the screen went black all the time? It just kept going black and
He kept
black.
going black because of the swearing from the fans coming in,
Oh.
and he had one line that I didn't even catch that I think probably was the funniest line of the whole goddamn thing, but we missed it because the
Right.
fans were swearing. Finally, cactus loving crackheads have something worthy of shooting into your veins. Like, I mean, holy shit.
That's pretty good.
I'm in a crack den with popcorn. Like, dude was fucking killing it. Killing it. Like, oh God. I mean, you talk about catchphrases, one-on-one with the great one.
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you think. Like this dude, with if we take the word I've used multiple times, longevity, out of the equation, he is unequivocally number one. But you can't give him this title. Although I almost swapped just because of last night. I mean, dude said, when he said, if Cody and Seth lose, it goes to Bloodline rules. He goes, God damn, I might even have Solo sing the national anthem.
I've seen
like he had the shit working.
Oh, that is funny.
I mean, but by the way, quick side thing on that. I think what they did last night is fascinating for the storyline.
Yeah.
Because there is absolutely now a question on Rock versus Roman.
Yeah, definitely.
And they alluded to it. They alluded through Paul Heyman's eyes. They alluded through Roman. They alluded through, Roman being very jealous of them not walking off the stage when they wouldn't acknowledge him, because Paul Heyman said, no, The Rock has to come out. So they're building a jealousy between those two that might very well work very much in the favor of Cody Rhodes. But I think it's fascinating. Like, as much as AB, me and you have railed on how they have handled this build up to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I think last night was brilliant.
Yeah, they're doing their best to steer the ship in the right direction. I mean, so far I think it's working. But time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's not, but I mean, the millions and millions, like once again, I mentioned it earlier, when the crowd finishes your catchphrases, you know what I mean? Like, you just have them hooked. And The Rock, there's only 2 spots he could hold in this top 5, and I gave him 2. And that's based on longevity. But he is, once again, The Rock comes in and everything stops. You watch.
Yeah.
You listen. So number 1 is not, I don't think this is, I think this is pretty anticlimactic.
Really? I'm waiting with bated breath to find out who your number 1 is.
Oh God. By the way, why don't you announce who my number 1 is? Because I haven't told you this, but I don't think there is any question.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay. Well, no, I don't think this is like, yes, he could have been 2. I could have put Rock first.
Sure.
But it's Ric Flair.
Oh, okay. Flair. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's the dirtiest player in the game. It's, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Yeah. He was the archetype for a lot of it. Yeah.
I mean, there are arenas right now currently with white bread hockey teams that after they score goals, over the loudspeaker you hear, woo, woo, woo. Like this is a dude that just encapsulates the spotlight.
Yeah.
That just grabs the mic and you're like, Flair's on the mic, not bathroom break time right now. We talked about potential managers and things like that. Like when Heenan was with him, oh my God. Like that is the combination of microphone wonderfulness.
Yes.
That we were all given. But Flair, the passion, the aggression in his voice every time he talked, and just everyone just draws to it. Like it's just good stuff. And Ric Flair, I don't like when I do these lists, I do Google, like, just to make sure I don't forget someone. like from eras or things like that. But I don't think I've seen a list where he wasn't number one.
Yeah.
And by the way, that doesn't impact my decision because
No.
there are plenty of them that have Roddy Piper 17th. You know,
Right.
like so
Right.
I draw my own list, but I do draw on a lot of these, these people that have done it before just to see their arguments.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I haven't seen one list where Flair wasn't number one. And by the way, before I even Googled it, I had Flair number one.
So
And
you
if
were
it
in the
weren't for The Rock
wavelength.
last night on SmackDown, it was the only thing that made me waver because I believe that promo last night on SmackDown,
Blue.
which by the way was almost 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it shows you how much they valued, WWE valued that promo.
Yeah. I would
That
agree.
was lights out.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Well, they have to maximize their time with, Rock because he's not going to be there every week. So,
Well, he's going to be there next week in Dallas.
oh, is he? Oh, shit.
That's what they said. They said,
All right.
you got Cody and Seth got to come face to face
You know
and
who?
accept their challenge or not in Dallas next week.
Do you know who else lives in Dallas? Sting.
Ooh,
Maybe he'll show up.
he's retired.
He's retired from wrestling. He's not retired from carrying a baseball bat and smacking some fools in the head.
By the way, if he comes down from the rafters at the American Airlines Center in Dallas,
Oh,
oh no. So Ric Flair,
right. I can
is
respect
number
that
one.
choice.
You know what was so much fun doing these lists? Is I have a notepad and you just jot people down.
Yeah.
And you just start jotting people down. And some of them were never going to come anywhere close to this list. But when you jot them down, you just start laughing.
Yeah.
You want to know some of the names I wrote down? And
Yeah.
some of them not funny, some of them funny. I wrote down Bray Wyatt.
Okay. Yeah.
I wrote down, before I decided it was going to be wrestlers and not just microphone personalities, I wrote down Paul Heyman. I wrote down good old JR. I wrote down Jerry the King Lawler. I wrote down Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy.
That's what's fun.
I remember him, yeah.
Is when you're just brainstorming and you're just writing. And this is one I know you don't like. But when I think about The Rock is the number one all time of just laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Like just makes you just laugh at what he says. You know who I had number two on my laugh out loud?
Who's that?
And he's a douchebag. The wrestlers don't like him or whatever. But I used to have an Italian roommate before I got married around this timeline. Mm-hmm. And we used to watch wrestling together at my house here in the boiler room down here with our 3 TV screens. And he was very much an Italian dude. Right. And me and him used to laugh out loud, just having so much fun watching Enzo Amore. And now it's Big Bill.
Yeah.
Like their gimmick was so fun. And so like when we heard their music, the little Italian, music in the background, like we would stop in our tracks and just watch the screen because Enzo Amore and Big Bill coming out. And they were so much fun, and it really sucks that guy was a douchebag and couldn't get along in the locker room, and because he was elite at the microphone.
Oh yeah, no doubt, and that's why he went as far as he did.
Correct. But by the way, laugh out loud fun.
Yeah.
So it's a fun exercise because when you just start brainstorming and just before you look at Google or you just start writing down names, who comes out, and it just and by the way, not a big Cena guy, but obviously good microphone, Miz.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw Vince on a few lists
sure.
like this. Yeah, Jeff Jarrett, Razor Ramon, like Stone Cold
Stone Cold.
absolutely
Yeah.
deserves to be on a list like this. He changed. Oh, by the way, Shawn Michaels
Yeah.
absolutely deserves to be on a list like this. There are so many, but when you only have 5 spots, in my
That's
case,
right.
6 spots of a top 5, um, you gotta draw the line somewhere.
That's right. So it's Kind Man's top 6 today.
Yeah, well, no, I say top 5, but we have a
uh,
tie for fifth.
oh, oh my gosh. Um, well, sir, thank you very much for your top 5. Always a pleasure to get that from you. I always look
By the
forward to
way,
your top
did
5s.
I did I leave out anyone that you would say awful omission?
I think in terms of reaction. So and I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone you've listed has definitely gotten the right reaction. But I also think in terms of, what reaction is going to be the most effective. In other words, it's not just about talking; it's about talking people into the building for your match. You know,
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to sound really corny coming from me. It probably is going to be very apparent what my answer is going to be, but I'm going to say CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy is destination Mike for me. I mean, there's nothing that if he's on the TV, I'm watching, I'm listening. He doesn't have catchphrases. He doesn't have, sing-alongs. He doesn't do that kind of thing. He's not like that. He's more of a straight shooting kind of guy. He has a great way of, and this is why I say he would be on my list. He'd probably be at number 5, right?
Right.
But he has a way of taking the the crux of the issue and justifying his position against that. So regardless of whether he's a face or a heel, and he doesn't really change who he is, other than the tenor in which he delivers the promo. Because I've heard him give some babyface promos that were like, that's kind of heelish, and I've vice versa. Where you could easily hear him saying the same thing. In other words, he's figured out what his character is. He's got his character, at least him or his character, either way, has a code that floats around in his head that he abides by, regardless of whether he's a heel or a face, and that informs his promos. And to be able to do promos that way is not only impressive, it's an old school trait. It's something that the greats like Ric Flair had. It's something that the great like Dusty Rhodes had. They initially didn't have catchphrases. They just went out there and said a bunch of shit, and whatever stuck against the wall stuck.
Right.
I mean, I suppose CM Punk has a catchphrase, and I don't think about best in the world, but
Yeah,
that's
greatest
a
in the world of
moniker. It's not really. He doesn't sing along with the crowd, and the crowd doesn't say it.
Right.
But yeah, that's who I would plug into that list.
Correct. And by the way,
Yeah.
he was on a lot of those lists I looked up. Just not my thing, and that's why I wanted to throw it to you, because I wanted you to be able to, if I missed something, be able to throw that in.
Well, I don't think you missed anybody.
You can speak to his maestro on the mic better than I can.
Be that as it may, I always look forward to your top 5 list, because even though I may not agree with everything you say, it's your list. What am I going to say?
Right.
It's like, well, shit. But yeah, I would replace Jericho with CM Punk. And
so would you replace Jericho or Piper?
You had Piper tied?
I had Piper and Jericho tied for 5th.
Oh, then in that case, what I would do is I would move everybody up, because Piper's 4.
You would move Piper to 4.
I would move Piper to 4.
And you would move Jericho out.
Yep.
You would keep DiBiase?
Yep. I sure would. Dude,
all right.
The dude was a fucking genius on the mic. There's no doubt about it. No, I mean,
by the way, DiBiase was not on multiple lists I read online.
No,
in top 20s. He wasn't even in the top 20 of multiple lists.
No, but he did one very important thing, and this is why, his promos always came off better, because he believed what he was saying was true,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And that's
Can't fake it.
Look, I was going to say his mom was a professional wrestler. His dad was a professional wrestler. He wasn't going to do anything but be a professional wrestler. His dad died in the fucking ring, for God's sakes. So, he has all that natural talent and aptitude for the business, and he's one of those guys that, when I watched him do a promo, he didn't look like he was, faking it. I'll give you an example. When Titus O'Neil gives a promo, I think he's just memorizing lines. He's just spitting out what, the powers that be want him to spit it out. And because he's not an actor, he doesn't do it very good. He does it as good as he can, but he's not very great at promos. It's just a thing. Never had to do that with DiBiase. And the fact that he would do all the talking and Virgil wouldn't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Forget about it.
No, I'm glad you agree with that one.
Yeah. No, I do.
I thought if there was any controversial,
well, I'm sure that will be.
It was DiBiase and Piper.
No, I'm sure it will be. Piper's not controversial to me, but
okay.
DiBiase, I can see
Piper
why someone
a lot of times in the late teens, in top 20s, in other things. And I just, once again, I thought the beauty of his maliciousness, with his humor, was just so perfect, because no matter who you were, no matter whether you were for the good guy or the bad guy, he made you laugh.
Absolutely, he did.
And he was but just brutal.
Yeah. I would actually put Cactus Jack as my, if I had a sixth position, I would put Cactus Jack as my sixth.
Okay. See, I didn't even have him down.
Yeah. Mick Foley, I guess. Cactus.
Because I just view Mick Foley differently. I view Mick Foley, God, if we ever did a list of the toughest wrestlers of all time, spoiler alert, he would be on there. But I never thought of him as being microphone, but he was good. And by the way, he was good. It's a great point, because Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, different personas, and entertaining in all of them.
Yeah, in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, he should deserve more love here.
Yeah.
That's a great point, because I never thought of people that do it differently.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And Cactus was another one of those guys. He never thought he was memorizing a promo. He was always being real.
Bang.
He believed in it. Right. He believed in it. So, kudos to those guys. And that's what makes good promos to me.
So many people.
There's so, right. We could probably talk about this for the next hour. You know who's not a good promo? Sting.
Who?
Sting.
Oh, you don't like him on the mic?
I mean, he's good in short doses, right? But he can't talk to a crowd and keep them captivated for any length of time. If you ever go onto YouTube and watch some of the after show stuff they do with AEW, like, Sting isn't doing a lot of talking, and when he does, the crowd, at first they're loving it. They're like, yes, it's Sting. He's going to talk. And then they're like, all right, Sting just spoke. So, yeah. And that's not a knock against him, I mean, not everybody is...
No, obviously, you've already given him your flowers.
Yeah, so I've given him plenty of accolades.
We're not knocking Sting.
And speaking of giving people accolades, I think it's time we wrap this up, because we are over an hour today. So,
by the way, can I give one more point?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it.
So, and this comes back to the origin of this YouTube show, from an old man with a paddle, playing video games.
Yeah.
Okay. I do want to give the WWE some flowers based on their promotion of their WWE video game coming up.
Oh, yeah.
WWE 24, because what they've done, the AEW didn't do when you did, when you got that game and built this, when they have matches now, they put up the rankings in WWE 24 of the wrestlers up on the screen. And that is such an homage to the greatest video game of all time, which is Madden.
Okay.
That it's always controversial with Madden when the rankings come out of what player is ranked 91 versus 88 versus 74 versus all of that. And the WWE marketing has been brilliant at piggybacking off the controversy of Madden rankings, which every year is a big fucking deal for the football video game. And what the WWE's done, like when I looked, the first one I saw was when they put Logan Paul up there.
Yeah.
And Logan Paul was ranked a 90. And I was like, holy fuck, how is Logan Paul ranked a fucking 90? The guy is a social media star. And I remember thinking I was outraged.
Right.
I saw this, but then I stopped and I'm like, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're getting outraged.
Outrage or by creating people arguing it.
Yeah.
By putting it up there during Raw.
Yeah.
You're creating buzz. And that's marketing. So the WWE is doing a fantastic job of promoting their video game coming up. I wish you had a PS5 because we could go head to head and you could go 1-on-1 with the great one.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so that's my last point.
That's your last point. Well, who knows? Maybe someday if I ask Santa Claus really, really nice, I'll get a PS5. I don't know. I don't think she's down for that, but I mean, he's down for that.
Yeah, exactly. No, we know who Santa Claus is in your home.
I'll have to put a bug in her ear early so she can start saving.
We never thought a beautiful Irish woman was Santa Claus, but
there you go. There you go. All right, everybody. I want to give you your flowers because we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Please consider dropping an elbow on that subscribe button, and if you're feeling extra saucy, frog splash over to that little thumbs up button. What is it, an emojicon button? I don't know what it is. But we would appreciate it either way it is. And please share our channel with other people you think might like this sort of thing. It helps us grow, and it helps you because you will get more content. That's right. Once again, thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody.
Have a nice day.